RotoGrinders. Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka Blender HD. If you want to follow me there on Twitter. And this is the show where we'll talk a little bit about yesterday's slate. What went wrong, what went right, what did the sharp players do, and we'll talk a little bit about today. I guess today, the late slate, the early slate. I don't know if we can even talk about the early slate. Half the games by lock, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what the sites are doing. The lock is what, at 12:35, and we're probably not going to have half the lineups for the slate out. So apparently they wanted to do it that way. So I mean, can we talk about it? Sure, but I don't know. Really can't build lineups. I mean, you have to prepare swaps or whatever. I mean, some of these lineups may be different at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but I guess you got to live with that. So if as we always do here, we talk about DFS strategy primarily, not picks, not plays, not locks, not anything. We talk about tools, projections, strategy. If you got any questions, put it in the YouTube chat. I see you guys in here already. Suki Singh, Don Montgomery, Card Fan, Daniel Hutchins, DFS Degenerate, Michael Dompier, Brandon McNeil. Hit that thumbs up button. I think this is the last Mott's apple juice in the fridge. I got to get more. I got to go out and get more today. So keep it cold throughout the show. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. Yeah, you're right, Daniel. Almost a 4-hour gap between the start of the first and the last game. I don't mind the gap, right? I don't mind the gap. Like from a sweat perspective, who cares, right? Who cares? It's just that how do you make lineups? Like, how do you make lineups not knowing the lineups? Especially because the day games after the night games or whatever, that type of thing. Like something they rest people, catch different catchers. Right? You take a look here. It's like, okay, Brewers Diamondbacks is like is Narvaez gonna against the lefty? Is it gonna be Pena? What happened to Vogelback? Is he gonna play? Right? I mean, he was hobbling. Right, then you take a look at the Diamondbacks. I don't know what the hell's happened here. You're probably not playing the Diamondbacks with Woodruff here. And you look here and you go, okay, well, Tani's pitching. It's like what that lineup's going to look like. The Giants are probably going to be something like this, right? Okay. Then you got the Rockies. These aren't that great of games to begin with. But still, like the Mariners. Like what's going to happen there? Is Tom Murphy, Luis Torrens? Where's Dylan Moore? Is he going to be up in the order, lower in the order? Who knows? I guess these will be easier to swap, right? I think some of these teams are a little bit easier because the players that you'd be swapping to would be about the same price anyway. We don't even have a Nationals line. We don't even have a Nationals lineup, and their game is at 1 o'clock, right? So what the hell are you going to do? Who we likely playing on this early slate? Before we get into yesterday's slate, I don't know. I didn't even look. I didn't even look at the early slate because I have other stuff. I had this show. I got a meeting. I got a doctor's appointment. I can't even play. I can't even play the soccer slate. And that's a 4-game slate. Brutal. I'm playing the 7 o'clock baseball slate. I'll play soccer to no side. There is no soccer tomorrow. All right. What are we doing on the early slate? I don't even know. Who are we attacking? Who's the highest total team? Right. Well, we got the White Sox against Chase DeYoung. We got the Cardinals. Yeah, good luck with that. I tried the Cardinals yesterday. Well, they're up against Matt Manning. Well, who cares? It doesn't matter. They're horrible. Lars Nootbaar, play that guy. Okay. Let's see. Let's go back to yesterday. Yesterday. If you faded the Astros, you did the right thing. Okay. I mean, it's confirmed. Like that was by far. Like you don't have to X amount, but going under on like 24% on DraftKings, 24% Alvarez, 23% Brantley, 21% Altuve, right? Abraham Toro was 16%, Robert Garcia was 12%, and you can see here by the yellow that like I just picked out like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and sharp players. I mean, like a Hubro had like none. Like literally no Astros, 0%, nothing. But I mean, like FJ Bourne, like one lineup. Brantley, 8%. Tuve, I can understand second base is a weaker position, right? Toro across the board. Like way under. Yeah, say Whistles had, 14%. Okay. Had a little Jordan, had a little like a little under. Still had some. But like across the board, the Astros were overowned. Then another player on DraftKings was overowned for a 14 game slate, and that's Juan De Franco. You can see here across the board, yellow, 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 yellow. Yeah, I know he's 2K. Oh, he's mispriced. How do you not play him? How do you not lock him in? If he's mid-price, well, mid-price in baseball is different than mid-price in basketball. Okay, being a mid-price player, the basketball scoring isn't event-based. Juan De Franco could have easily gone 0 for 4 yesterday. Anyone could have gone 0 for 4 yesterday. Abraham Toro went 0 for 4. I mean, it's baseball, right? Yeah, they may have a median. Oh, it is a median of 10. Oh, yeah, median of 10. Zeros are all in his range of outcomes. 3s, 6s. Right, but he's 2K. Oh, so? But if all the 21% of lineups that are in a 14-game slate have a 2K shortstop, you know how much your builds are going to look the same? If you're playing Juan De Franco, the Astros, and Cole and Giolito, I mean, why did you even bother playing GPPs yesterday? Just why'd you bother? But of course, Franco goes for 27 points. But this is what I mean by don't go by the results, go by the process. So yeah, you can't think in your head. You go, oh, the Astros fade was sharp, right? Because look at all the sharp players. Oh, but fading Franco is dumb. Like, no, it's the same concept. It's the same exact concept. Over owned for their probability of a ceiling. Well, they hit the ceiling. Okay. It's not a 0% chance. So there you go. So that was, I mean, if you were on DraftKings and you made non-Astros, non-Juan De Franco lineups, you were sharp. Sharps were kind of mixed with Garrett Cole. He was the most owned pitcher, 40% on DraftKings. He was only 27% on FanDuel. He got some strikeouts, but I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be double-digit strikeout Cole anymore. Giolito put up a decent game, right? Didn't get the win. Scherzer put up a good game, even though he didn't pitch as long, but he got a ton of strikeouts. Charlie Morton was the play. He was like 4% owned on FanDuel. But on a two-pitcher site like DraftKings, I can understand it. So Wheeler got killed. I had a lot of Wheeler on FanDuel. Peralta, 35. Morton, Stripling had a decent game, right? DeSclafani crushed it. I mean, Heaney was able to get 17.5 points, even having had a bad game, right? Because he ended up with 10 strikeouts anyway, even though he's given up dongs all over the place. He was just saved by some of these the sharp players. I mean, sharper players went Scherzer. Like they went, oh, the Scherzer's still Cole, still a mix of both, but then, played some Kershaw, but still not as many. We see some Morton here. I mean, but still, if you look at this ownership, I said yesterday on Crunch Time and on the morning grind, I think, the morning grind I did for today, that too many people are going to make these types of builds, the two expensive pitcher builds. And you could see here just by the ownership that's exactly what happened. The too expensive pitcher and the Juan De Franco type of build. Did that build get there? I don't know. Did it get there? No, it actually didn't. It didn't get there. Well, it was 1, 2, 3. This is just a mess. This is a mess of a lineup. It's a 3-3. The 3-3 something or other on a 14-game slate. Okay, I guess it can get there. What did the Mish have? Okay, the Mish had what? 3, 4, 4, 5. Okay, we got the Oakland stack. That probably was the winner. Laureano Canna, Andrews Chapman, Murphy. No Olsen. Peralta Morton, the nut pitcher combination. And then Brantley is a one-off. Okay, I guess just what fit. I guess you could do it with ownership on all of these being low. And then Void and LeMahieu were both at home runs. Like in any other day, this would have been the winning lineup. If Summit 87 decided just not to play today and just not put together whatever the hell they put together. Like that lineup, this would be the winning line, a 5-2-1 with the nut pitching combination that both were not as owned. You take a look at like player one, Cole Peralta, like Cole, that gap was, you'd rather have someone else there for that price. But this was a Juan De Franco lineup. But Juan De Franco doesn't look that bad at his ownership in a lineup like this. The stack is under 10% owned, and all the other anything else, like Badu is 8%. And Peralta is 14% compared to all the other pitchers. So you didn't need the okay, fine. You want to take on a chalk Juan De Franco in that lineup? Go for it. Have fun. In this type of lineup. FJ Bourne is a weirder lineup. Morton, Rodriguez. This is the double pay down lineup. Oakland, 5-man, Oakland, 2-man, Boston, and Jonathan Scope. Okay, on any other day, this is a good lineup. Leaving 500 on the table like this makes sense. We take a look at stacks. Let's get rid of the pitchers here. I mean, you can obviously see right at the top that the Astros are going way overowned for a 14 game slate. Yesterday in the bat, I'll take a look. Look here, I got my cheat sheet. The bat was 1, 2, 3, 4. The Houston was the 6th highest ceiling in the bat. Yeah, look at their ownership. I mean, it's ridiculous. And that's the main reason. Like, I played on FanDuel. I still had Astros, but I didn't have much. Number one was the Cubs, and Eli Morgan just comes out into 5 innings, 9 strikeouts, just out of nowhere. Just not okay, whatever, right? And then eventually the Cubs hit their bullpen. So like Contreras and Wisdom and Bryant. I mean, if you had like that secondary eventually got there, but like as a team, it didn't really. And the Cardinals just cried. Cardinals were number 2, Angels number 3, Brewers number 4, and Mariners number 5. It's like those were more of the teams that I played. I didn't have much Oakland on FanDuel. I had a little. I had an Oakland Brewers lineup, good Bruin towards the end, but I had like 30% Wheeler, and that screwed me. I'm sitting there with good lineups. I'm sitting there with an Oakland stack with the home runs in the lineup and the other spots, and the Wheeler's 12 points up there at FanDuel. I'm like, come on, really? That's why I thought Wheeler was under. I think Wheeler was what, like 8% or something yesterday on FanDuel. We can see here the Cubs. The Cubs look brick. I could go by shortstop, right? Baez, right? Maybe Forsaken didn't have any Cubs, but Hubro, Brick 75, Squirrel Patrol, FJ Bourne. I mean, over on the Cubs. Cardinals, Tyler O'Neill. You can see right here, more green than anything. Jazz Chisholm, okay. Maybe not. A little. You see the Cubs with Jock Peterson, over. Brick 75, over. The Mariners, look at the green on Ty France. That means over. The White Sox, Tim Anderson. That's a bit over. The Mariners here. The Tigers, a little. But still, look at Paul Goldschmidt. Like almost like over. Not like excessively. But that's where you go. You go down in the 6-8% range there, you start seeing the stacks. Because why should these teams be 3 times less owned? Should the Astros be more? Yes, they should be. Right? It's not a question. They shouldn't be even. There's no reason. There's really, from a range of outcomes perspective, there's no reason that Michael Brantley should be nearly 24% owned and Tyler O'Neill be what? Half that owned? 12%? And no reason for, Mark Hanna to be 7%. I mean, like, one should be more owned than the others, but not to that extent. And that's where you're taking advantage of in GPPs. That's the whole concept. So that's why you see a lot of green around. You go into results DB, the green in these 3, 4, 5, 6. You typically see a lot of yellow. A lot of urine color. It doesn't matter what they put up. right? On DraftKings, if you give me a 21% owned you give me a 20+% owned hitter, any hitter, doesn't matter their price or anything, on a 14 game slate, and it's unlikely that I'm gonna have more than 20%. I'm most likely gonna try to make lineups without them. That's just the way that baseball is. Basketball, we can talk, we can do the other way, right? Oh, this guy's gonna be 80% owned, and you go, 80% owned may actually be under owned, right? The guy's 3,800, going to play 40 minutes as the point guard with a 28% usage rate, and his median is 47. I mean, yes, you're playing him. Like the 20% of people are just getting stupid, right? At that point. Let's see. Going through the YouTube chat. Nate Branshaw, are you more likely to fade over-owned hitters in single entry and 3-max? Knowing in those contests, those truck players are usually going to gain more ownership than what is projected. Yes. That goes along with the concept of when I say I'm more contrarian in single entry, right? It doesn't mean playing nuts. You could be way contrarian in large field. You should, because you need to get more leverage. And because you need to find it. So, like, for instance, if we take a look here, I think yesterday's slate is a good example. Let's use results DB. Let's go back to the slate. Let's go to the ownership tab. Okay. It looks at ownership throughout. Well, I need to see what the names of the contest. What are the names of the contest that they're running yesterday? Okay. So here we go. Where's the single entry? The battery, the 121 battery, right? Okay. Because that's the 121 single entry, 643 entry, right? We're going to do that one. Let's do also the 7th inning stretch, the 777, which is a 15 max, 500 entry, and then do the bat flip. Okay, so we'll do that, and do the bat flip and the micro mini max also. Well, let's look at. Okay, I need to remember the names of this. Okay, the 777. Look at the 121. Okay, so we're gonna look at a cross section. You're gonna look at the differences between how these players are owned across everything. Okay, so let's get the 121 single entry. 121. Can I type that in? 121. No. Single entry battery. Okay, take a look at this. Okay. 777. Mega 7th inning stretch. Okay. And then bat flip. And we'll even look at the mini max. It's in there. It's running pretty slow. Mini max. The mighty micro mini max. Okay. Okay. So you can take a look here. Let's go by. Look at these Astro stacks in the single entry. Okay. Brantley, 43%. Alvarez, 40%. Juan De Franco, 42%. Right? So take a look at this cross section. So we have the 121 single entry is fading the Astros. If the Astros tank, you're taking like 40% of the lineups in the entire contest. Right? If Juan De Franco puts up a 3, you're tanking so many lineups. Look at the differences in ownership here. And then you go down, like let's say, just look at pitchers. The pitchers was a little more spread out. But like Gio was way more owned in the single entry. Yeah, yesterday wasn't a good choice, but you had choices at pitcher. But like if you wanted to play like the Cubs, they were about the same owned. You're going to get some down here that are going to be under. But look at this: Brantley, Alvarez, Altuve, Ohtani, Wilson Contreras, Abraham Toro is 30% in the single entry. But look at Scherzer. Like Scherzer is the complete opposite, right? Because Gio is more owned, so Scherzer is going to be less owned. So you're looking at the differences between the green and the yellow. Right? Way more chances to be different. But of course, you get slightly better competition. You're less likely to see really bad lineups. But you can take a look at the micro mini max. I mean, look at this cross section with Juan De Franco. So to put things into perspective, Juan De Franco was a better individual one-off play in a lineup in the mini max, and not so much in the single entry, or even in the 7th inning stretch of 777. He was 26% owned versus 21% in the bat flip. But you can see in the 7th inning stretch, the 777 has a lot of more sharper players, a lot of sharper lineups. So you could look at the ownership. There's not as much of a gap between the Astros and the bat flip, which is an $18 large field contest, or the mini max, which is obviously the cheapy contest. Like, look at Abraham Toro. Look at Altuve. Look at Robel Garcia. You don't get, even though this field is getting smaller, but it's getting sharper, so it's more likely to correctly be less likely to use the Astros. Single entry is still getting plenty of people that are like, I got to play the chalk lineup. Got to play the chalk lineup. I don't know why. Got to play the chalk. You shouldn't. So simply, but this is why in single entry contest, I say it's easier to be. I'm more contrarian, and it's easier to be. That's the reason I'm more contrarian, because it's just easier to be. That's all you have to do. If you played single entry yesterday and just said, I'm not going to play any Astro, then just make the best lineup you can. Just go. Just play Juan De Franco. Fine. You could just do that. You could even do that. You're going to be fading a stack that's going to be in 40% of the lineups. You're done. That's it. You don't have to go and play. You don't have to go down and play. I'm going to play the Phillies against Scherzer. You don't have to do that. You could do that in a large field, sure. But I mean, in the single entry contest, you don't. But it's easier to find leverage. It's easier. It's usually just go, okay, I'm just not going to play Astros, or I'm going to play Astros, but I'm going to play them with like Miles Straw at the bottom, and then I'm not going to play Juan De Franco because he's 42% owned in single entry. Okay, you could do that. You just have to find one angle, just one angle of, I know what the chalk's going to be, and I have to get rid of some of it, and then you're done, because they're going to be so much higher owned in the single entry contest that they will be in the GPPs. And the GPPs, you can't do it as much. If I just full fade the Astros, I mean, that's only like 18% of lineups in the contest. I still need to beat the other 82%. So it's a little bit harder than in the single entry, where it's like it could be half the lineups have an Astro in it. As long as the Astros don't do well, like, I have a good chance at first place, and I don't need the nuts, right? Because half the lineups are dead. You don't get half the lineups are dead in a larger field contest. But you could also see here that the sharper point per dollar plays are typically less owned. They could still be over owned, but less owned in the lower stakes. So you could see the discrepancy here between the stakes and the sizes of contests. That's why if you in single entry yesterday, if you built a lineup that was Cole, Giolito, Houston plus Juan De Franco, like, then you're playing badly. I'm telling you, you're playing badly. Could you have done one of those things? Sure, of course. Oh, you couldn't have played Cole. You couldn't have played Giolito. You couldn't play. One of those you could find, but not all of them together. You're competing against the same lineups. Oh, they all come in, and you still come in 84th. And you're like, how did that happen? Yeah, because there's 100 lineups that look like this, right? Maybe duplicated on a 14-game, and it's a 14-game slate, right? You tell me this is a 3-game slate. Okay, that's a little different, at least. People want to play, single entry. I can just play the chalk lineup. Yeah, good luck. Good luck with that. Sean V says, I had Morton in a full A stack, so I was happy. I actually did fade Chalk Franco, which was dumb. It wasn't dumb. It was not dumb in GPPs. Could you have played him in that Oakland plus Morton? Yes, because you didn't need the extra leverage at that point. So you could have played him, but your lineup in overall projection and ownership was probably fine the way it was. You didn't even need him, but you didn't need to actively not play him in those types of lineups. If you were not playing Cole Giolito Astros or some 2 out of 3 of that type of thing, then you could have played Juan De Franco in those lineups. But you can't go by what happened. You can't say, I'm look at what I said before. You can't say people that faded Franco were dumb, and people that faded the Astros were right. That's just the way that it worked. And the probabilities of two of this are similar to each other. So they both apply together. So you can't just go by the results. If let's say we come into today, the Astros put up 16 runs against Jorge Lopez, right? And Juan De Franco is sitting there, not a great debut, right? 0 for 4, 0 points. You'd be sitting there going, yeah, it was dumb to fade the Astros. And it was so easy to fade a 2K, a rookie coming up, even though he was 2K. It's baseball, right? I mean, it would have been that conversation. You can't just go by the results. Was he over or under owned in comparison to the lineups that you're playing him in? Houston, definitely. Franco, for baseball, yes. Any on a 14-game slate, anyone that's over 20% is just, you have too many other people to choose from. But you can play them in lineups. If you played it, you could have played an Astros stack with Morton and then like a 3-man something or other that's 3%. The Rangers yesterday or something like that. You could have played someone. I don't know who was on yesterday's slate. 1% owned whatever. And that would have been fine also. Oh, well, the Astros didn't come in. Okay. Well, in comparison to that overall lineup, you were still fine. Michael Dompier asks, can you differentiate pitcher ownership? Meaning if you see Cole at 30%, that's different than Houston at 30%. Well, there's less. Well, Houston, understand that Houston is still 9 batters. So you can play, doesn't mean you have to play the top 5 owned Houston guys. When you play a pitcher, there's no other choice, right? So you can play, like you could play a Houston stack without Brantley or Alvarez and actually lower your ownership. So there's a possibility of doing that with actual teams and stacks. Pitchers, you can't do that, right? And also remember, pitching is much more predictable. Pitching is linear. It's not event driven, right? There's more data points and there's going to be more pitches. It's not going to be 4 at bats and just line drive. Oh, snared by the shortstop. Like 2 feet different. That would have been a double, right? A ball all the way to the wall. Oh, he catches it at the wall. Like another 3 feet. That's a home run. Pitchers that they don't work that way. So it's more likely that the pitching projections are going to be narrower, less variance. Hitting projections are going to be much wider. Hence why the better projected pitchers typically are higher owned, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. But you have to do the same comparison as you would with pitchers as you would do with the batters. Like you take a look here. We take a look at pitchers. Should Cole be 70% more owned than Wheeler? Probably not. Should Max Scherzer be a third of the owned, 2.5, something like that? Less? Probably not. Peralta? Should Kershaw be only 8%? Probably not in comparison to Cole. But Cole should have still been the highest owned. Cole's effective ownership probably was still 30%. That was probably his efficient ownership. Giolito's efficient ownership on DraftKings yesterday was still probably 30%. It's not so overowned. And the fact is that it's easier to increase the variance of your lineup. Remember, in GPPs, your goal is to take, you don't want to play optimally. You want to increase the variance. You want a higher, wider range of outcomes, more correlation. You want to increase that top end. It's much easier to do so with batters than it is with pitchers, right? So it's so much easier to say, well, maybe Oakland, maybe the A's go off instead of the Astros today, right? Matt Chapman, right? Olsen, Canha, like the difference between those guys versus whoever the hell the Rangers were throwing out, Hearn and whoever Lyles came in, and the Astros and Alvarez and Brantley and Altuve, to be like, okay, the Astros are, those guys are better than Laureano and Canha. They are better. Or how much better? Are they that much better? Not really. Is the pitcher that they're facing that much different? Lopez versus not really, right? So it's like, well, if one's going to be 22% owned and one's going to be 7% owned, it's so much easier to then drop your lineup. Yes, you're going to drop 2-3 points in projection, but you get a ton of ownership. 2 or 3 points in projection, a pitcher typically is a much worse pitcher. So it's so much easier to get a lineup that projects well and is own low by doing, Oakland plus New York plus whatever, than saying like, well, I'm going to play Sandy Alcantara and Andrew Heaney in my lineup, right? I'm going to instead of playing the chalk pitchers, I'm going to play 2% owned pitchers. And the reason why they're 2% owned is because they project worse than these other pitchers. So I'm like, I'm giving up. If I play Alcantara and Heaney, I'm going to be giving up, I don't know, 10 points in projection. I'm going to get the ownership with it. So now I don't need any more leverage. So then what? And now I'm playing the chalk Astro stack and Juan De Franco. Well, which is more likely to be variant? Pitching or hitting? Hitting. So why would I want to play a lineup that is Brantley, Alvarez, Altuve, Toro, Juan De Franco? Why do I want to play? I'm going to jam in all of the chalk hitters. Like, not just some of them, literally all of them. I'm going to play Ohtani and Contreras and whatever. And then get different at pitcher. It's like, well, how much different are your lineups really going to be? Because you're still going to be sharing lineups with like 20% of the field as it is. And then you got to hope that your two worst pitchers beat out the better pitchers. But the fact that pitching projections are much more linear, much more normally distributed than hitters, it would make more sense. If you're going to play two lineups that are similar in projection and ownership, you'd rather the difference. You're increasing more variance with the hitters than you are with the pitchers. So even though the medians may be the same, it's quite possible that the ceiling of the lineup, the ceiling outcome, like the range of the lineup that has the two chalk pitchers and the off the board stack, is actually way higher than the one you're playing the chalk goddamn everything and just differentiating a pitcher. Because then you have to say that, like, well, the only way I win is if all the chalk event driven people go off that only have 4 or 5 shots to do so. And on top of that has to happen. And I need Sandy Alcantara to not only beat Cole, but it has to beat Giolito, it has to beat Wheeler, and it has to be the highest scorer on the slate also on top of that. And Charlie Morton also be that. Like, why are you differentiating, being more likely to differentiate at the positions where it's less variant and not where it's more variant? It's very similar to basketball. When you get these like the min price guys like 4,200 price, it's like, don't be cute. Just basketball projections are so much more linear. It's not as event driven. So just eat those guys. You see the sharp players, how they play NBA DFS. When we have these value plays that are ridiculous, that have 8x, 9x medians, 10x medians, you see them like they're 97% of their lineup. I mean, like they're just why it's basketball. It's not event driven. They're gonna like play 34 minutes unless they shoot 0 for 17 or something. They're probably at least gonna get to the point where they made value. So it's more likely that you just eat those guys, only because basketball is much more linear, much more normally distributed. Baseball, it isn't. So Juan De Franco with 2K isn't a slam play. In cash games, sure, he is the highest median. If you're aiming for median, there you go. You're fine. But once you start comparing it to ownership, like there's no reason that the 21% owned shortstop, no matter what if he was free, if Juan De Franco was $0 yesterday, there's going to be a point where he's overowned. There's going to be at some level, maybe based on your projections. If you roll your own, you made your own model, and Juan De Franco projected so well that even 21% was underowned. Okay, then I could throw up my hands and go, based on what okay, true. His projection would have to have been much higher. Based on the bat, based on plate IQ projections, based around projections around the industry. I mean, he was projected for like 9.5 like median points, which is for 2K is like the best value play on the slate, but it's still an event. It's still, this is not these aren't normally distributed outcomes. Right? This is not like you put in this and you're more likely to get, no, this is all over the place. So if he was free, if he was literally free, what would his projection and ownership? If he was free and he was going to be 70% owned, he's probably in baseball, and for a hitter in baseball, that's overowned. Yeah, but he's free. Who cares? If he gets a 0, how are you going to win a GP? How are you going to win a GPP at that point? 70% of lineups have a 0 in it. Don't you want to take advantage of that? That's the goal. What is the efficient ownership of a player? There's going to be a line. If you want to argue the line, that's perfectly fine. But you have to admit that there is a line. There is a line. Maybe, like I said, you're like, no, 21% is too low. Okay. But you can't tell me that at 80%. If he was 80% owned yesterday, that he's plus EV at that point individually. He's not. No batteries. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter what the price is. Clint Friday asks, what's the optimal stack size in DK baseball GPPs? It depends on the slate, depends on the lineup. Remember the 2 rules of questions. There's no exact answer to anything. A 5-3 lineup and 2 crap teams that project bad with 2 bad pitchers is still a bad lineup. Doesn't matter. Well, I stacked 5-man. I got a 5-3. I got leverage. No, it's still a bad lineup. But yeah, all evidence points to that the field still does not 5-man stack enough. So by default, if you didn't want to go into the nuances of different lineups, well, is this 4-3-1 as good as this 5-2? If you want to just default it, if you just defaulted to 5x, just 5 and whatever, it could be a 3-man, it could be a 2-man, it could be 3 1-offs on DraftKings. If you just defaulted, and no matter the size of the slate, smaller slates, you're less likely to stack as much, but if you did, you're fine. So if you don't want to think about anything and just default it and just go every slate on DK in large field GPPs, I'm playing 5x. I'd say go ahead. Then don't even have to think about it anymore. That's what you do. I do that on FanDuel. On FanDuel, I play 4-3-1s. I don't play 4-4s. And I just play all my lineups 4-3-1s because it's just easier to build that way. Could I build some 4-4s? Sometimes I do. Sometimes I build 4-2-1-1s. Sometimes depends how much time I have and how much, and do I want to look at the nuances between lineups. I'm playing 150 of them on FanDuel. Most of the plus EV lineups are 4-3-1s. So I just play the 4-3-1s. And a lot of the reasoning for that is that the 4-4 lineups project worse and are actually owned more because of the correlation. It's less likely on DraftKings. But we could talk about that on a different day. Yeah, Daniel Hutchins says stacking is about increasing variance. That's what makes it good to do in large GPPs with huge payouts up top. You need a huge score to win. So you want to add correlation. You want to increase your leverage, lower your ownership, requisite with your projection. So you're going to have a slightly lower projection, but you're going to have much more lower ownership. And just make plus EV decisions and just get your sample size as large as possible. I've been playing for a week and I've lost every slate. Well, welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. That's normal. 1 week. Dude, I lose in GPPs 90+% of the time. And I'm wildly profitable. Okay? That is the name of the game. This season has been brutal. But not because I'm losing, it's because I'm getting top 10s and not getting I got one top 2 and like 12 top 10s. And these payout structures are just like 50,000 and ninth places is just you might as well just give me the set of steak knives. Right? 10th places on FanDuel is like 350. It's like, well, thanks. $350 for coming in 10th out of 44,000. And I'm hitting that spot, right? I'm looking there. I'm in 7th place, 6 points behind first, right? Like that. It's like, dude, if someone would have hit a double, I would have 30,000. But no, I couldn't get an extra double. So like that, all you could do is aim for those spots. Just aim for the top 1%, top 0.1%, and after that, it's varied. So judge your play by that more so than did you come in first or how many cashes. Don't even care about that. I barely cash. Well, good. Actually, the less you cash, the probably better that you're playing, right? Okay. If you have any more questions before we get out of here, a little short show today. Got a meeting afterwards. Eli got other recordings to do. You got to make your lineups for the 12 o'clock. You got to make your lineups for the 12:35 slate, even though we have no idea who's playing. We have no idea who's playing. Do we even have starting lineups in for? Oh, God, we got the Nationals in. Oh, okay. Isn't that nice? But no, you don't get. It's a 6-game slate, and half the teams don't have starting lineups. Way to go. I mean, I almost feel that they should have done a 3-game slates. I mean, obviously I prefer the bigger slates. I prefer a 6-game slate. But I also prefer all the starting lineups being out before I enter contest, for luck. So I almost think they should have just done a 3-game this, then a 3-game 340 slate, and then the main 7-gamer. 7-game. Tyler McGill. Who's that Tyler McGill? He's pitching for the Mets tonight. Tyler McGill. Is he a rookie? Is he someone from AA or something like that? Is he something? He's favored. How bad of a pitcher is Kyle Wright when the Mets are favored? The Mets are favored in this game? Is that true? Wow. Okay. Okie doke. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out the door. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. The notification bell to know when we go live. We got Grinders live later today. Crunch time for premium members. So click on that link in the description below to get $10 off your first month. And as always, a lot of the stuff that I talk about on the show when it comes to ownership, leverage, correlation, projection, all of that, that's all game theory. That's all the game theory of playing DFS. Not about the sport, not about, I think this guy's going to do well. No, well, we have projections for that. So how do you utilize that? 15-hour audio DFS masterclass. If you want structured education, it's like going to a seminar. It applies to any sport. You could use this for NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, PGA, MMA. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what it is, right? Game objectives, player selection, expected value, leverage, correlation, construction, risk management, exploits, and psychology. 15 hours. Got some testimonials here. People have listened to it multiple times. If you want to think like a professional DFS player, this is what DFS is. This is how top players play. So if you want to learn those concepts, which I talk about on the show all the time, so like feel free to start this show from last year and just watch every episode for hours, for hundreds of hours, or just it's all condensed into a nice structured learning environment, 15 hours. Theoryofdfs.com. Pick that up. And we'll see what happens tomorrow for the 7 game, for the late slate. I was on the morning grind this morning. We recorded last night. So you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be stacking against Caprellian and probably getting stonewalled. So that is what I'm going to be doing tonight, right? I said it on the morning grind. Let's see, right? You play the Rangers, probably low-owned Rangers against. I don't even know. I don't even know what the bat projections are. Right? Maybe Caprellian actually projects well. Does he? Does he project well at all? He doesn't project horribly, but yeah. So Caprellian, is that how you pronounce his name? That's what I'll be doing, and then probably getting stonewalled. It depends on what the ownership. I have to see the ownership. That's what's going on tonight, and we'll talk about it tomorrow, because that's what we do on this show. We review slates, talk about DFS strategy for upcoming slates or questions in general, and I answer them Mondays through Fridays, 11 o'clock in the morning Eastern, for the DFS pregame show on RotoGrinders.com.